Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we have had so much fun trying out all of the features like Q&As and polls that let us be really creative and engage with our audience. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
The statue that united two brothers, Wimbledon, and a deepening friendship between Kate and Meghan. It's all here on episode 32 of Podcast Royal. Welcome back to episode 32 of Podcast Royal. First of all, I can't believe that we are on episode 32. And I know this is probably an unpopular thing to say on a podcast about the British royal family, but happy belated 4th of July to our American listeners. We're recording this episode on July 6th. How are you, friend? And what are you into this week? I can't wait to hear.
I'm good, and happy 4th of July to you. Yeah, I had a great long holiday weekend. It was really quite relaxing, although I was pretty productive. And this week I am actually into a trip that I am planning with one of my best friends. We actually chatted about it over the weekend, and we have decided next month to do a little long weekend in New England. So we're going to go up to Maine and, just get outside and maybe do some hiking or bike riding and stay at a bed and breakfast and eat some really good food. And
so fun.
Yes, I'm excited because we've talked about travel opening back up again, and people are so eager to get out and do things. And so that has been on my mind this past weekend. So what about you? What are you into?
Well, I guess before I share mine, it would be a good time to announce that we are, like the British royals do, taking the month of August off of the podcast. So we will not have any new episodes in August, but we will be back in September. And we're also taking next week off because I am going on vacation on Friday. Our family does an annual beach trip to North Carolina. And so I'll be gone all next week. So we're going to kind of be here, there, and everywhere. But we're going to take if I do say so myself, much deserved month of August. The royal news will be slow anyway because everyone will be on vacation. So there's our housekeeping for the day. So what I'm into this week is this adorable coffee table book called Pretty Little London. I read this book over the weekend. It is fantastic. It's about the hottest places to visit in London for each season. And I actually liked it so much that I wrote an Instagram post about it on Podcast Royal's Instagram. So as someone who has never been to London, I could not put it down, and it makes me want to go more than I ever have. So June 2022 in the Jubilee, can't get here soon enough, Jessica. We've got to make this happen now that we've got this gorgeous travel guide, and I'll bring the book over to your house before I go on vacation for you to read and take in the stunning pictures. It's a gorgeous coffee table book. It's not overwhelming. It's the perfect size. I read it in a night. So well done, Pretty Little London.
Yeah, I'm excited to look at that. I love the little pretty pictures that are Instagrammable, and London is such a pretty city. So I can't wait to read that.
This book was made for you, so you are going to love it. And hey, listeners, don't forget that 20% off deal on Finlaya is available only until July 10th. We're recording this on July 6th. This episode drops July 7th. So you've got 3 days to go grab your jar now for $12.99. And thank you again to the owner for doing this, especially for Podcast Royal listeners that are on Amazon Prime. And if you don't remember from last week, listen to what we had to say about it. But Finlaya is a skin cream we love that really does it all. It's fragrance free, it's clean, and it's kind of honestly a miracle in a jar. So we will link to it again in the show notes for you to access easily. We love this stuff. Yeah. So any other notes about life before we hop into this week's Royal Rundown?
I don't think so. I'm excited about this episode. We've got some fun stuff to cover.
We really do. We have a special guest today again, and I hope you all are loving these guests, and we're certainly loving having them and hearing some opinions and voices other than our own for a change. And
yeah, so I think we've had kind of a fun summer series. We told our listeners a few weeks ago that we were planning content, and I think we're delivering on that. We have just filled the summer with some fun interviews. Sure. We've got more coming too.
We do, and my gosh, we had Robert Lacey on the show last week. I'd just like to remind you that we had Robert Lacey on the show last week. I'll never get over that. So, okay, Royal Rundown time. So the Diana statue unveiling happened. Wah, wah, there it was. And maybe the best news of all is that last Thursday was relatively boring. The statue, in case you've been living under a rock and haven't seen it, is Diana surrounded by 3 children. Her arms on their shoulders. She's got a button-down blouse and a very 1990s statement belt on, which people reported looks just like the same outfit she wore in a 1993 holiday card alongside William and Harry. Kensington Palace said that, quote, the portrait and style of dress was based on the final period of her life as she gained confidence in her role as an ambassador for humanitarian causes and aims to convey her character and compassion, end quote. And it was also very nice, by the way, to see Diana's 2 sisters and her brother there, and everyone looked so happy to see each other. I can't even imagine how long it's been, maybe since, I don't know, maybe since Harry's wedding or probably Archie's christening, which was actually 2 years ago today, by the way, that Harry and William have seen their mom's siblings. So beneath the statue, a paving stone was engraved with a beautiful excerpt from the poem, The Measure of a Man, which of course was altered to reflect Diana's gender. This made me emotional when I read it the first time. It says, quote, these are the units to measure the worth of this woman as a woman, regardless of birth. Not what was her station, but had she a heart? How did she play her God-given part? End quote. So the poem, by the way, was previously featured in the program for the 2007 memorial service honoring Diana on the 10th anniversary of her death. So Jessica, I'm curious, what does that poem say to you?
Well, to me, this is a reflection of how Princess Diana lived her life and how she was seen by others that she impacted. You know, it's kind of a reminder that it's not about the titles or the rank or position. It's not about money or fame or waiting around for someone to tell you what you can or can't do. It's about finding and living your purpose in life and really leaning into what God designed you to do. And I think it's a reminder that God bestows talents on us and passions and abilities that we can use to do the work that he's created us to do. And we're at our best when we do that and when we honor him. And I think this poem was chosen for this statue because Diana's family and friends and everyone she impacted really saw her as doing that with her life. I think she touched others in unique ways that only she could. And the statue, to me, seems to be designed to reflect that.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, it says you don't have to have a royal title at birth to make an impact. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, obviously, honestly, Diana's family, the Spencers, are monetarily probably more wealthy than the Windsors. So it's not as if Diana was, you know, born into abject poverty or something like that. But the Spencers, honestly, are probably, again, more blue-blooded than the Windsors. But what I think that's trying to say is you don't have to be born a prince or a princess to be able to make impact through your heart, which of course Diana was always known as the people's princess, and for being so empathetic and for truly playing out God's will for her in her life and playing the part that she was given in life, her station in life, to the fullest. So I was also really pleased to see William and Harry release a joint statement on Thursday that said, in part, quote, "Today, on what would have been our mother's 60th birthday, we remember her love, strength, and character, qualities that made her a force for good around the world, changing countless lives for the better. Every day, we wish she were still with us, and our hope is that this statue will be seen forever as a symbol of her life and her legacy." End quote. The statement was signed jointly, as I said. I loved that. It was signed Prince William and Prince Harry. They also thanked, quote, "all those around the world who keep our mother's memory alive." And the photo they used to accompany the statement is the two brothers looking at the statue in front of them, water behind them. And it felt a little bit like there might be hope for peace. So Kensington Palace, where Diana, of course, lived, and home to the sunken gardens where she often sat and reflected, said the aim of the statue was, quote, "to reflect the warmth, elegance, and energy of Diana, Princess of Wales, in addition to her work and the impact she had on so many people. The figure of Diana, Princess of Wales, is surrounded by three children who represent the universality and generational impact of the princess's work." So what do you think of the statue and of the day overall?
Well, it does seem like the day went according to plan. I think it was best to keep the unveiling as private as they did. I think it took some of the pressure off of the brothers and allowed the family some private time to honor her life and remember her and reconnect with William and Harry. My initial thought about the statue was that it wasn't what I expected, although I'm not really sure what I expected. And I think I've heard other people kind of echo that same thought. I've heard a lot of comments on it. I know some people had strong feelings, whether they liked it or didn't like it. I know a lot of people felt it wasn't a great representation of her. And my thought on that is I think people are being a little too critical of it. It's clear the brothers are happy with the outcome, and I think that that's really important. I think part of me maybe imagined her looking more royal or princess-like. Although I don't really think I expected them to portray her in a crown and or a tiara and a gown. So my guess is she was sculpted this way because this is how William and Harry saw her, not as a royal, but as a mother. She was down to earth. She was kind to others, regardless of their title or money or lack thereof. And she loved children, even those who weren't her own. And I think she was often seen as being sort of mothering to children of all backgrounds. So I know you mentioned her wearing a similar outfit in the 93 Christmas card, and I have seen that photo, but I've also seen her wearing similar styles with this sort of pencil skirt, wide belt collared shirt on several occasions, I guess in the 90s. And I imagine, again, that that's how William and Harry most often remember seeing her. That's probably why they selected an outfit like that for her. I will say I didn't think the statue looked exactly like her. But again, what can you expect in a statue? I don't think, I think maybe that's why people were disappointed. I think they were expecting something more realistic, but it's a statue at the end of the day. It's not her standing there. So I don't think you're ever going to get that full realistic, vision of her there. But I'm glad the unveiling was a success. I think it will draw many visitors in the years to come. And overall, I think the day went really well.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that the brothers opted to not give rival speeches, as I believe that was Robert Lacey that put it that way in People that I read. Instead opting to release that joint statement and not compete for who had the better speech. They didn't say anything. And I think whether art is polarizing, right? Whether it's a statue or a portrait, it's often so hard to capture the beauty and the essence of a person. I'm thinking right now of Kate's portrait from a few years ago that was pretty much universally panned. I know I've heard on a lot of other royal podcasts, people are saying they wish the statue was marble, they wish this, they wish that. But the bottom line is, like you said, this has to be what the brothers wanted. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been seen by the public. It wouldn't have been allowed to be shown if that didn't fit what William and Harry wanted. And so I found this detail very interesting. I've also heard that Diana to some looks a little masculine in the statue. So it might make sense to hear that the statue's sculptor specializes in none other than nude male statues. So there you go. If you think Diana looks a little masculine, she comes about it honestly, because that's what the sculptor specializes in. So overall, I'm pleased with the day. It was relatively dull. The statue unveiling, albeit brief, I'm so glad there's a memorial to Diana on KP's grounds. I bet even 10, 15 years ago, and definitely, 25 years ago, no one would have ever predicted that would ever happen on royal property. So the brothers look relaxed and happy. And I'm very glad it seemed to go as smoothly as it did. So any last thoughts? It was kind of a little bit of much ado about nothing. I think we hyped this up for so long and really it just kind of went. So
agree. Yeah, I mean, I do sort of wish the Duchess of Cambridge would have been there.
mm-hmm.
It was honoring her husband's mother, and she is the future Princess of Wales and the future Queen consort. And, I kind of wonder if she made the decision not to attend or how that played out, but regardless, I think the event was really effective at honoring Diana and not taking away from her memory. So that makes it a success in my opinion. And those are just my final thoughts on that.
Yeah. So as you said, we didn't see Kate at the statue unveiling, but we did see her out Friday at Wimbledon, which is, one of her favorite events every year. It didn't happen last year because of COVID. And Kate is a notorious lover of the tennis tournament, which was, as I said, canceled last year. And she is a patron of the All England Lawn Tennis Club, which organizes Wimbledon. She also spent some time that morning in the kitchens on the grounds to help prepare food, as the All England Lawn Tennis Club has been creating and distributing 200 meals a day to those in need during the pandemic. And then some later breaking news, speaking of Kate, she is currently self-isolating after being around an individual who later tested positive for COVID. While the Duchess is currently symptom-free, which we're thankful for, she's taking precautions and self-isolating at home. And she missed a planned appearance with William at a special service at St. Paul's Cathedral on Monday to celebrate the birthday of the National Health Service 73 years ago. So, of course, we're wishing the best for our dear Duchess of Cambridge. So
back to I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
What did you think about her outfit?
Okay, you're going to think that I've really lost it, but I can't even remember what she was wearing to Wimbledon. Isn't that sad?
She had the navy blazer and the polka dot pleated skirt and the white heels.
Yeah. I vaguely remember this, Jessica. I guess I've got too much going on, but tell me what you thought of it.
So I will say I didn't love it. I don't know. I'm not really sure why. It just sort of felt off for the event. I feel like maybe we've just seen her in similar outfits so frequently, and maybe that's why you're not remembering it, because it really didn't stand out. It just kind of.
I'm Googling it right now, actually, because I'm kind of ashamed that I truly cannot remember this. So
to me, it was just sort of like, several other outfits that we've kind of seen her in recently, and it just really didn't have a wow factor to me. I mean, it could be partly because I don't love polka dots, but I think overall it just wasn't a favorite look of mine.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and this outfit does absolutely nothing for me at all.
But I did like seeing her in the kitchen. I thought that was really fun, and I'm sure you saw the light up game on the reel that they posted on their Instagram account. That was really fun too.
Yeah.
I'm
still looking at this outfit.
Yeah. Normally, I think she has a lot of really great hits, but this one was kind of a miss for me.
Yeah, I like the blazer. I just don't really like polka dots so much. Maybe that's just a personal preference, but what was it nice for you to see her back at Wimbledon again, since that's a favorite of hers?
Yeah, it was good. It felt like, a little bit of a return to some normal events. So I hate that she's having to isolate now.
Yeah, I that outfit, I'm still on it. Just Kate normally doesn't miss in my book, but anyway, if I don't remember the outfit, then that tells you everything. So anyway, okay, so Wimbledon, I hope she's feeling okay. Certainly hope that the COVID, certainly hope that exposure wasn't at Wimbledon, but we have no confirmation of that. So wishing the best for Kate. Please, she's not sick that we know of. So please, instead of get well soon, please stay well. And speaking of the NHS, the Queen awarded it the George Cross, which is one of the highest honors she can give, in a beautiful handwritten letter this week. We also saw Her Majesty at the Royal Windsor Horse Show over the weekend, looking relaxed with son Edward, daughter-in-law Sophie, and granddaughter Louise. She's
So,
smiling from ear to ear. Love it.
yes, and I wanted to actually comment on this really quick. So I love the Wessex family, and I just feel like Her Majesty totally connects with Louise. Do you get that
So
feeling?
I feel like we've said this on the show before, but I have read reports, and of course, like she would never say this because what grandmother ever says their favorite grandchild, but I have read that Louise and her younger brother James are the favorites. Like they're because they're quite a bit younger than everyone else, so they're separated a bit from the pack, and she's so close to Sophie, as we know, and so she has a very special bond with Louise.
Well, I know Louise is 17, so you're right. There's definitely an age gap there, but the Queen is her grandmother. And I thought it was really cool. I was looking at this event and some photos online the other day. And so Louise has a love of horses, which we know the Queen does as well. And she has competed in this horse show in the past, and I think she did this year too. And we know Prince Philip loved carriage driving as she does. And I also read that she inherited Prince Philip's carriages.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really cool and special. And I just really hope that this event was, I don't know, calming for the Queen and just an enjoyable time for her, getting the day away with those family members. So
She looked so happy.
she did, yes. And also, while we are chatting about people who are not Cambridges and Sussexes, I wanted to mention this too. I came across a story on Clarence House. You probably saw it, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So I love food, and especially healthy food. I'm really into that. And Prince Charles, we know, really is into environmentalism. So he actually visited and toured an Iceland Foods grocery store in Wales. Did you see that story?
I don't think I did. Apparently, I'm sleeping on some important stories.
Well, I probably would have missed it, but it caught my eye just because I don't know, I find
Because you
food
eat healthy. I'm
I find it very
so
fascinating, and I feel like I spend all of my paycheck at the grocery store every week. So I read about this one, but he went to go check out their sustainability practices. So, like I said, he's really into environmentalism. And this grocery store, I guess they've got a chain of stores, but they have essentially committed to removing all plastic packaging from their store branded food items by the end of 2023. And they're cutting out I think they've already cut out all palm oil from all of their own brand food items. And the reason that caught my attention is because when you think about plastic at the grocery store, the first thing that comes to my mind is like the grocery bag that you get when you check out.
Mhm.
But it goes so beyond that. Think about everything that food is packaged in. There's so much plastic that goes through the grocery store. And to eliminate all of that, I thought was really fascinating that they're making an effort to do that. And I also read that they have put in a reverse vending machine in their store. So have you heard of these? Do you know what they are?
No.
Okay, I didn't either. So a reverse vending, okay, think about a vending machine. You put money in,
Right.
get out a snack or whatever. The reverse vending machine is you deposit your plastic bottles or your cans, and the vending machine in return gives you like a coupon or a voucher that you can redeem when you shop in the store.
Cool.
So I thought that was really interesting. And I was going to ask you, do you think that will catch on if we'll start seeing that in the US?
I think that's a brilliant idea. I mean, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I've never heard of this before, but I think it's great.
Yeah, I know. I just happened to like read the story because it caught my eye and I thought that is pretty cool. So
The Charles headline that I saw this week was something about him, like, I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but he just could not help himself from disco dancing. And that's the headline. I was like, what? And so that's the only Charles headline I remember from this week, which that did not make the cut of the, of the Royal Rundown.
well,
So
it sounds like it should have been one of our What the Royal segments.
yeah, I was like, it was some headline, I think it was on People, it was like he could not control himself from disco dancing, and I was like, okay, we're gonna not include that, and we've got other things to say on the Royal Rundown. But I'm glad that you that's so, I mean, Charles, you know, he is who he is, but I so respect and appreciate his commitment to environmentalism, which obviously he's passed down to his son. So, and I think his grandchildren as well, because, you know, the Cambridge kids we know are really into David Attenborough, and I think they're going to take up the stead as well. So, okay, so we can't stay away too long from Cambridge/Sussex coverage, right? So while he was still in the UK, Harry attended a private garden party with winners of the Well Child Awards last Wednesday. And while he was there, he caught up with Ed Sheeran and told his friend that two is definitely a juggle, talking about his kids. And we've been lucky so far. She, of course, referencing Lily, is very chilled and seems happy to just sit there while Archie is running around like crazy. You know, I've heard it said that one is like one and two is like 20. So I'm sure they're nice and sleep deprived with a newborn and a toddler. So more good news. I love a good news week like this. This is a good week for some good news. I read on Vanity Fair that Kate has been reaching out to Meghan more than ever after the birth of Lily. Apparently, Kate is sending Meghan notes and gifts and really working on their relationship. So I'm always curious of your thoughts.
Well, I hadn't seen that. And the timing of the story seems a little bit odd, but you know, thinking back, Kate told us herself a few weeks ago that she hadn't FaceTime with them since the birth of Lily. And we've heard Kate and William have been hesitant to talk to Harry and Meghan out of fear their conversations would be leaked. So, I really don't know. I don't know if the story really lines up with the other reports that we've heard, but I do think it could be partially true. Maybe they haven't spoken face to face, but she's still sending baby gifts or cards or flowers or something. And I think that would make sense given, it is her sister-in-law and her niece. So we've always known, Kate's kind and gracious, and I think she has a really tough role, balancing media attention, her duties to the crown, supporting William and Kensington Palace, but also having to be a sister-in-law and a family member, and not giving anyone a reason to report something unfavorable about her. So I think she's done a good job at balancing those responsibilities. And if she's been sending them gifts and notes, I think that's really kind and really awesome. And hopefully it will mend some fences.
I'm just all about the peace, I'm all about the peace. I'm all about the love, reunification of the family.
You were right. I do think, as you mentioned, seeing the brothers together, I think that they were successfully able to set their differences aside for that event. And that was encouraging. It was hopeful that maybe there would be some sort of peace in the future. So maybe the same is happening with Kate and Meghan, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, maybe the duchesses are following the duke's lead. And, I know that the brothers love their mother so much that they would never have wanted that day, her 60th birthday, to be about anything other than her. They wouldn't have wanted the headlines to be about their feud. They would only have wanted it to be about their mother. And if that is the only thing they can agree on right now, then that's a good enough starting point for me, And so overall, it was a pretty good week. I like it. I like peace and happiness and family bonds. So as we wrap the royal rundown today, listeners, don't forget to grab a copy of our 2 summer Royal Book Club picks, The Windsor Diaries by Alethea Fitzlin Howard and Prince Philip's Century by Robert Jobson. Pick up copies of these books and we'll dive into them more later in the summer. And so for segment 2 today, we have a real treat for you. We want you to meet Susan Corder, the founding editor of What Meghan Wore. So as we mentioned at the top of the show, Podcast Royal will be on vacation, just like the Royals, during the month of August. So we won't have an episode on August 4th, which will be Meghan's milestone 40th birthday. We wanted to have Susan on before Meghan's birthday to discuss not just Meghan's fashion, but also her life, her work, and her impact in her 40 years of life. So take a listen. We are so excited to welcome to the show Susan Corder, founding editor of What Meghan Wore, a site that examines the Duchess of Sussex's work and wardrobe. Now, Susan has a skill unlike anyone else I've ever seen in identifying fashion. It is a true gift. And we have her here to not only talk about that process, but also Meghan's impact as she approaches her 40th birthday on August 4th. I am so honored to serve as the editor of What Meghan Wore, and Susan is not only a treasured colleague, but a treasured friend. So welcome to Podcast Royal, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
We are so glad that you're here. Let's jump into some of these questions we've got for you. So you launched What Meghan Wore in November of 2016, which is really when the world had just sort of begun to learn about Harry and Meghan as a couple. And it was really an entire year before they got engaged in November of 2017. So what made you create the site even before the world knew that she would be the one Harry would marry?
Well, I was a fan, and I'm still a fan of the show Suits. So my husband and I were always watching it. So I pretty much knew who Meghan was, before all the hoopla started with her and Harry. And as soon as there were some whispers in the news about her and Harry being together, I knew right away that they were going to be a great match and it was going to be something long term. So I immediately jumped on it and started grabbing all the accounts with the name and set that all up. And then Susan Kelly, who runs What Kate Wore, she's kind of like the one that has all the what so-and-so wore accounts. So I actually asked her if it was okay to use the name. And then she jumped on board probably a year later and started writing with me and getting the site all in tip-top shape. But yeah. That's how
you were a fortune teller. I don't think anybody but Harry himself knew that Meghan was going to be his wife at that time. So, we wrote a really interesting post on What Meghan Wore with Susan Kelly about this. But I want you to talk us through on the show about how the fashion ID process works. I find this so fascinating. So, fashion ID is not what I bring to the table at What Meghan Wore. I bring the reporting, but you are the one that can look at a garment or look at a pair of shoes and say, boom, that's who she's wearing. So you're just totally magically able to see Meghan in a look and know exactly who she's wearing. So how do you do that? And what are kind of the tricks of the trade?
Well, it's not necessarily that I know right away what she's wearing, unless it's a repeat item or I've seen it before by a specific designer that I know she likes to wear. If she's wearing J. Crew or something, along those lines, or Madewell, a lot of times, you can spot it right away if it's a popular item. But what we do is there's groups of us on Twitter that share the information, and it comes out so fast. So you kind of have these lists of specific people that are really good with IDing pieces. And then we just kind of blurt things out and see what's going on. But the downside of that is you have to be careful because some reporters out there will take and grab information and it turns out to be the wrong information. And it causes a lot more confusion, particularly when you have a following, a lot of followers looking to purchase an item, and then they're going and running and buying that item, and it turns out it's the wrong thing. And you feel bad because they're spending money on something that she didn't wear, you know, and we know there's diehards out there that want exactly what she wore.
Right. Remember when I texted you with so much excitement that I got the Everlane tote, which I still carry to this day, that Meghan carried in that first big engagement, which ironically happened on my birthday in September 25th, 2017 at the Invictus Games, where she's wearing the husband shirt, the mother jeans, and the Everlane tote. And I own the Everlane tote. So, but yeah, I mean, it's important to get it right. And I think you've said before that you'd rather be a little slower to post and get it right than not.
Absolutely. I mean, we've learned a few times when we've posted something incorrectly, but we're very good about retweeting or posting on any of the social media sites that this was a mistake or it was our error. Here's the correct item. Apologies for any confusion. That's really important too. And that's, you know, you just want to have really accurate reporting. And even on Facebook, you know, like that's a little bit easier to edit a post on there versus editing a post on Twitter, which you really can't do.
Right.
So I'm probably better at IDing like the little intricate things like jewelry, because I worked for a very famous jewelry designer back many years ago, and with the little blue box. And
we got it. We know who that is.
And so I just have this eye for detail, but you start to kind of like train yourself on what to look for. And because we purchase high-res copyrighted images, that's also a big help too, because you can go through a lot of the images from a specific photographer and find close-ups and things like that. And that is a huge help, particularly if it's shoes and we can see the bottom of the shoe and the designer name. That's really key. But now with her doing a lot of Zoom and we're getting, you know, photos that aren't done by specific photographers or agencies, it's a little harder. Yeah.
Have you always been a fan of royal fashion, or have you always just been more interested in Meghan's style?
I was a fan, I'm still a fan of Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge, and that was early on, shortly after she got married. And when I was working in finance, I would wear a lot of the stuff that Kate wore because it was perfect for the office. So it kind of gave me an idea of what outfits to kind of pull together to wear for work every day. But now, you know, then with Meghan, it's a little more casual, and I like that casual feel. You know, it's more relatable. And I think a lot of people feel that way. You know, it's easier to throw on like something from J. Crew or Madewell, and you know, it's not real expensive either.
Yeah, I would definitely say her style is more attainable for women as far as everyday clothing goes.
Well, you kind of just answered my next question. So, you know, relatable, casual, attainable. How else would you describe Meghan's style, Susan?
She likes to do like little quirky things. You know, everyone kind of jumps on if something doesn't look perfect, or you know, or if it looks a little askew, but that's kind of her style, you know, part of her style. You know, she doesn't wear anything real clingy or tight. It's always like loose fitting, and she's more comfortable that way, and you can kind of tell. And don't we all want to be comfortable in our clothing? You know?
It's very California, which obviously makes sense being where she's from.
Yeah, well, when she was in Toronto, we saw a lot of like the heavier coats and
Mhm.
the winter wear. But yeah, overall it's very like a California look. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we feel pretty familiar with Meghan's overall style, but she has surprised us on a few occasions with her outfits. And I'm wondering if you have a favorite Meghan look.
Oh, well, I do love the jeans and the husband shirt. I own both.
Mhm.
And I like when she wears the just jeans, or like when she wore the Ruth Bader Ginsburg t-shirt and a sweater, a cardigan over it. So those are probably, outfits I would gravitate more towards. Yeah. Because that's more my style. It's
Mhm.
just throw on jeans and a t-shirt, or, jeans and a long sleeve shirt.
I'm not even sure if we've had this conversation, but rewind back to May 2018, Meghan gets out of the car in the Givenchy wedding dress. What is your take on it? What are your thoughts on the wedding dress?
Surprised, unexpected,
Mhm.
but at the same time, looking at it going, oh, that dress is just so her, and that had that classic Givenchy look to it, so it was very like 1950s, 60s, somewhere in there, that era. And I love that timeless classic look. I mean, I really thought she was going to wear Stella McCartney or something, maybe from Roland Murray, but yeah, that was a surprise. But she looks stunning, absolutely stunning,
Mhm.
and clean and classy.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us how everything changed for what Meghan wore when Meghan decided to step back as a working royal in January of 2020? I'm thinking, is it difficult for you to do your job since we hardly see Meghan anymore? Or how has that really impacted your day-to-day work?
It's it's been tough because, before, when she was a working royal, you would have you know, updates on where they were going to be, like the engagements that they're doing. And you would get that information ahead of time. So it was easier to plan for a post, and get yourself prepared to see, like whatever she was wearing, to go and look for it. But now it's like spontaneous, and you just don't know. So you always have to be ready, and, to go and just do a post quickly,
Mm.
no matter, you have to just drop everything. Rachel knows, because
And it always happens on a Sunday morning. I mean, I guess I should just plan going forward for Sunday mornings to be Meghan, because the pregnancy announcement Sunday morning, the birth announcement Sunday morning, and
that's right. Yeah.
I'm always like in some state of getting coffee or getting caffeinated, or I'm never at the computer and I'm off. I'm taking Sunday off, and then boom, here comes the news. So yes, it's always, I swear to you, it's always on a Sunday morning these days. And you
Yeah,
have to scramble. You have to boom, boom, especially when she's wearing stuff, because like the birth announcement on June 6th, we didn't have a photo or anything. So it was just the reporting. But, when the pregnancy announcement came out, and I think it was Wes Gordon for Carolina Herrera, we had to, you had to scramble and find out who was that. And, just, it's like, it's fun. It's exhilarating.
it is. And the great thing about it is that I can reach out to you and say, hey, can you bang out a post really quick, and I'll grab the photos and
Mm-hmm.
set up the whole template in that. And it works really well. We're able to
It's a
get
good
it out
tag
that
team
much
effort.
quicker. Yeah.
We discovered really early on in our working relationship, I think, what each of our skill sets were, and we just really feed off of that. And something I've always respected about the site is that we never post tabloidy gossip. And what Meghan Wore has a very strict comment policy on all of our social media that absolutely will not allow for disrespectful comments. And I also like that what Meghan Wore focuses on more than just Meghan's fashion, but also Meghan's work and her impact. So as we said offline before we hopped on Zoom, Meghan is about to turn 40 in a couple of weeks. So what do you think, Susan, her impact has been globally, both as a working royal and now beyond?
I think they have the potential to influence large groups and globally. I mean, they already have, but I think they're going to go really far. And now that we're coming out of this pandemic, and, once I think we'll probably see maybe something for her birthday. I don't know. And I just really feel like when the dust settles, we're going to see a lot more of them out in the field and working like with World Central Kitchen. Maybe they'll take a trip to setting up a location, things like that, and really out in that with boots on the ground, just going for it. Meghan isn't the type to just sit around, as we know. Like, she always has to be doing something and working.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really good thing. Absolutely. So we may or may not see her around her birthday, but I think by September, we'll start to see some activity going on.
I'm putting this out in the universe right now. I bet you anything I have that on her birthday, which is a milestone birthday, that's when we'll get the first photo of Lily.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, that you could be right.
That's less than a month away. That's only
a
couple weeks, 3-4 weeks away. So
yep,
I bet that'll be it.
A possibility. Absolutely. I really don't think we'll see anything sooner. Mm-hmm. I would be surprised. I think they're just waiting for that right moment to share with everyone. And we may not see a full on, front face of Lily, but something, very much similar to how they did for Archie for the photo call. And that's fine. They have the right to do that. So, yeah.
I guarantee we'll see something on her birthday. I feel that in my bones.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to it.
So we'll be ready. We'll be ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you have shared some really interesting information with us today, and it's been so nice to chat with you, Susan. We're going to wrap this up with one more question for you. So given Meghan is turning 40 very soon, what do you predict for her next 40 years and beyond?
Oh, gosh. I think we're going to see her get involved in a lot of other charities and organizations, and maybe form some new ones, particularly around, being a feminist and women's rights, and, and teaming up with other individuals, kind of like what they did with Chef Andres and creating World Central Kitchen, the community kitchens. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future from her. I think she's going to surprise us too. We're always going to be surprised by something, and I really can't wait until they start doing their podcast, to hear what they have to say on there and how that's going to work.
We wonder about that sometimes. Where did Archewell Audio go? We want more Archewell Audio content. So, but they did just make a hire. I saw over the weekend. They hired someone like director of content or something like that. So I think that, there's much more to come on that front in the future. But Susan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I love you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was fun.
Yes. And listeners, check out What Meghan Wore at whatmeghanwore.net and on social media. We are What Meghan Wore on Instagram and Facebook, and on Twitter, we are What Meg Wore. So check us out, follow the journey. She's just getting started. So happy early 40th birthday, Meghan. And Susan, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great interview. And thank you so much for joining us, Susan. Happy early birthday to Meghan. And listeners, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Podcast Royal. Email us at hellopodcastroyal@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us, rate, and review our podcast. And I said follow our podcast because I don't know, Rachel, did you hear or did you see my Apple Podcast app updated and it doesn't say subscribe anymore. It says follow.
No, you're right. So now we've got to change our verbiage. So follow us. Yes, follow us.
Yeah, follow the podcast.
Hit that button. Hit that button.
Right. Rate and review us. We always appreciate that. And thank you so much for tuning into episode 32 of Podcast Royal. We'll be off next week as a quick reminder, but we'll return on July 21st with our next guest and the newest Royal Rundown. While we are away, we'll miss Camilla's birthday. So happy birthday to the Duchess of Cornwall in advance. And you guys have a great week. Bye.
Bye.